And there's also a slideshow in Google Classroom that has the basic directions, but really, if you watch this video, you should be good to go and understand how to do it. So, first question, you're just going to be answering questions from this picture here. Let me pull up my drawing tool. And the first question says, how many millimeters long is line A? So we look here, line A is this one. And they want to know how many millimeters that is. Remember, the numbers are centimeters. Millimeters are all these little lines. So if you really want, you can count all these little lines. Or you could do the smart thing and skip number 1 and go to number 2 first. It's always easier to start in centimeters when using these rulers and the tape measures you're going to have later. So it says how many centimeters long is line A. For that, we find the closest number that's smaller than where we're measuring. So we're trying to get to this point here. So 3 is the closest number. So that's 3 is going to be our whole number there. And then we count all the little lines up to here, and that'll be the decimal. Or you can cheat. Notice this line here is a little longer than the little ones because it's halfway between 3 and 4, so it's 5. So I'm going to know this is 5 without counting all the little ones, and line A is one line past 5. Each line is 1, so that's going to be 3.6. You could pull up your metric conversion if you want, but I don't have mine handy, so I'm going to just say I know centimeters was here in our chart, millimeters was to the right. So to convert centimeters to what number 1 asked for, millimeters, I'm going to go 1 to the right, which moves this decimal point here, and that's 36 millimeters. I didn't have to count 36 little lines. I could have, and I would have got it right. Once you get good at this, you might realize, hey, just add a 0 to these numbers. So this is 30, and there's 6 little lines to make that 36. Doesn't really matter how you do it, as long as you get it correct. So I strongly recommend doing number 4 before number 3, and then converting it by moving the decimal 1 spot to the right, and then do number 6, and whatever answer you get, move that decimal 1 spot to the right to get number 5. But I'm not going to give you those answers. All right, I got to close out of here so I can scroll down. Oh yeah, don't forget this hint. If you just put 3.6 like I did, I was trying to go quickly here. Make sure you put centimeters, millimeters, cm, mm, whatever. All right, the next part of the lab are our data tables. So you're going to have to kind of get up for this part, because you are going to measure things like the length of the whiteboard, the height of the whiteboard, TV, and so forth. Actually, I did those ones for you. You're going to just stay at your lab table and measure these. But notice, we have meters, centimeters, millimeters. You're not measuring 3 times each object, and since I measured these objects so not everyone was crowded, let's figure out how to do that. So I'm going to set up my short version of the metric table, but you can open up the real version if you want. We have meters, we have decimeters, centimeters, and millimeters. So remember, we could do this first one together. We're given the length of the whiteboard in this room was 246 centimeters. Well, we got to convert that to meters. So here are centimeters. 1, 2 to the left. 246. Move that decimal 2 spots. And that's how we get this to be 2.46. To get millimeters, we're still going to start with what we're given, the centimeters, and go 1 to the right. Since there is no decimal, we move that 1 over, and that's really just adding a 0, 2,460. You'll do the same thing for the height of the whiteboard, length, and height of the TV. Then you're going to actually measure the length of the table, the width of the table, and the height. So the height's going to be from the floor to the top of the table. The width and length, it doesn't matter if you mix them up. Like if you put width for length, it's just the length should be the longer side, the width the shorter side. But remember, you're filling those out in this column. you're measuring in centimeters because that's what the tape measure you'll be given has. And then you'll, again, move the decimal 2 to the left to get these answers, and move the decimal 1 to the right to get these answers. You're going to do the same thing in data table 2, except you're going to be measuring circumference, which means all the way around your wrist. Then you're going to remember the circumference of the lowest part of your, the lower arm, the fattest part of your lower arm, so probably your forearm. If you flex it, don't flex it, that's up to you. Then the circumference of your upper arm, which probably be your biceps, again, flexed or not. You're putting your answers in the middle column. Whatever you get, you're going to move your decimal 2 to the left for the meters and 1 to the right for the millimeters. Once you have that done, you have a few conclusion questions. Notice down there. And number 1 says, is the meter, centimeter, or millimeter more useful for measuring length and width of your classroom? We didn't measure the classroom, but what would be the best way to do that? And tell me why. In other words, which of these meters, centimeters, or millimeters would be the best? If you miss this question, you can still get credit for the checkpoint, and so don't worry about it too much, but think it's kind of common sense. Which of those 3 units, metric units, meters, centimeters, and millimeters, would you best be used for measuring how thick a nickel is, and tell me why? And then you got a few more conversion problems just to make sure you're good on these, because we will have a quiz eventually. I would strongly recommend pulling up the metric ladder while you do these. That's in your Google Classroom. Other than that, you should be good.